Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach and founder of Coaching for Relevance. How are you doing today, Randy?
Good, Joe, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Pleasure to have you back. How is Texas weather these days? Hot?
Well, let's put it this way. It's a lot better than it was when it had all the floods about a week ago.
Oh,
so, yeah,
God bless all of those who are affected by that and people that are still missing. So sorry.
Yeah.
Where are you in relation to that? I know you're in like the Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Yeah, I'm in the Dallas area, so I'm north of where all that happened and everything. So didn't happen anywhere with where I am. But, yeah, it just it can happen sometimes every now and then. So, yep.
My gosh. Well, thank you for being here, for joining us. And you're here to do your job of just being amazing and just really a stand-up individual with his military background to, being an aviator, I should say, and what you do to help so many. Let's give a little overview as to the work you do. And what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I'll share with you an aspect. As you know, as you said, I'm a Marshall Goldsmith executive coach, but I'm also Coaching for Relevance founder, and my whole thing is bringing freedom to potential to other people and all that. And as you know, that's the title of my autobiography on Amazon, and it's also the mindset of my journey, my story, which is getting close to being released by Hollywood to be published on HBO and Netflix and a lot of those places. So my whole focus is in bringing some insights and some freedom to potential in other people, and that's what I'm all about. It's and I'm kind of amazed at kind of how it seems to have gone and been going and goes now. So.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And, there's a lot to the work you're doing. You always are busy. We got the movie, the book, you got a lot happening. Where did you want to kind of start for today? I mean, there's always a lot.
What I'll do is I'm going to kind of focus on one little aspect that in a couple of shows quite some time back and everything, I think I hinted at them a little bit, but I'm going to take them to a little bit of a deeper aspect here. It's a key aspect of how you really lead your team and how you really need to be looking at it in ways that a lot of people today don't fully understand in kind of amazing ways. And if you're a manager who thinks you're just here to dictate to your people, you're not getting it done. So what I'll do is I'll mention one or two quick things, and I'll mention it, but I'll also bring out a couple of military hints at it and everything, just to give you a little bit of a picture of it. But the central part of this is really what I see is in developing truth in your people and really bringing that truth aspect to it that a lot of people don't fully understand in some ways. So, and when I say truth, I don't mean just that, but I mean building trust in your people. If you're doing it in such a way that you're really enhancing and building the trust in you and your team and in the individuals and all of that. So guess what? And this is going to be very aligned with some organizational maneuverability aspects, which, as you know, is a concept that's been signed for me from Washington, kind of thing. And it's really leading your people, leading your team, and being successful in a scenario which is not just rote academic, and it's not happening just all the ways that you thought it would or want it to be. And because guess what? In today's world, sometimes things come on scene that you didn't expect, and you need to be aware of this in one aspect of it. So when you're ready, we'll go ahead and I'll sort of go ahead and start, if you will. Okay. So, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention just one little quote that comes from a lady who is a professional counselor, and she was being interviewed recently. Her name is Kenza Hennock, and she said this in a kind of a spiritual, religious way, but I'm not going to kind of go to the religious aspect today because I'm going to be focusing on the leadership aspect of it and everything. But it is sort of an interesting insight because she said and she was actually progressing and sharing neuroscience, how the brain works and things like that. And she actually had a couple of images up that she pointed to as she related to it when you're talking about people working together and people being successful and things of that nature. And she's exactly right. In talking about the neuroscience, one of the things that she mentioned is she said, you get all these people that are just praying for God to do something, or they think he doesn't understand what's happening, but he knows science. He did science and everything. He knows it, and it's just an interesting insight. And that's all I'm going to go with that. But it just when I saw that, I said that's pretty sort of aligned with kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. Because when you talk about leading your team in a challenging situation, and one of the things that people don't understand your role in the team. And in fact, I will say this: that in the movie documentary, one of the people that they interviewed mentioned this. He applauded me because of how I mentored people, but I didn't torment them, kind of thing. And that's a interesting aspect of it. But when you're talking about leading your team, it's not just about you telling them what to do. It's not just about you pointing fingers at them. If you put it in a military sense, if you think about this, true commanders, true leaders develop their people to be able to gain the truthful insights. And because here's the thing, if you end up going into combat, what if your commander is shot and killed? You know what? If your mindset as a manager is that you're just sitting there saying, well, my job is to just tell them what to do. They should just shut up and listen to me and do what I'm doing. You're not getting the job done. You're not getting the job done. And particularly when you're talking about performing in a rapidly changing, unpredictable environment. And if you think about it, and this is what a lot of people don't totally understand, but when you're talking about building truth and trust in your team and everything, guess what? Your people or your individuals may have certain insights from their life journey that stand out to them in ways that you're not even aware of, or vice versa. You have different people that do that. Now, how you're developing your team to be able to bring all that together in a synergistic way, that can be great. But you know what? When the factors are not predictable and when the factors are challenging, guess what? If they're just shutting their brain off and depending on you alone, that is not what you want. Because I'll tell you, the fact is, there will probably be certain aspects of awareness that they see because of their background and their journey, but you don't see right now. And if you're making it so that they just have to shut up and listen to what you're saying, that's not successful for you. The people affect Nicole Mirakowski, who is an ex-military person, kind of thing, and flew with the Thunderbirds, kind of thing at one point. Shared a quote. I don't remember who the person was that said it, but she said, "You know what? Leaders that are listening get their people to speak." And you know what? As a manager, if all you're doing is looking at it from the standpoint that you just need to listen to me and accept what I'm telling you and shut up and go do this or whatever, guess what? There will be factors that come on the scene that you can't expect and everything. But the other part of that is, which takes it up one notch a little bit, the other part of that is in your team's experience, they are experiencing that you don't trust them and they can't fully trust you because you don't want what they're experiencing is you don't want their awareness.
Yeah.
They're sharing their insights on this and everything. And if you think about, like I say, if you think about this aspect of true leadership, it's really building that synergistic oneness. And what it does is it takes all that to a slightly deeper level where you can become one. You can have some of those conversations. And the other part, what a lot of people don't realize is this isn't successful when you wait until something happens and then try to tell your people what to do. That's not when this happens. As a leader, what you have to do is be able to build the conversations with your team prior to that point.
Yeah.
So that they have some insights, and you can remember, I think I shared one or maybe two of these little simple things in previous shows quite some time ago. But when I was the site manager at the Strategic Air Defense Contractor up in the Air Force Base, we had some of those conversations. And when I heard them sort of asking questions sometimes, as a leader and as a manager, I'd let them explore. I'd let them talk about it and explore it and all that. And you know what? I asked them some questions on it. I knew where it was going, and I knew it's a good thing. And I also knew what I would do. But I got them exploring it a little bit. And when you're talking about really creating or building sort of trust in your team, that just doesn't happen when it's just one-sided. And when you think about this aspect of, along the journey, working together with your team, and as this guy said on the movie, mentoring rather than tormenting, kind of thing and everything. Mentoring your people to get into some interesting thoughts on it. Guess what? As I think I hinted at the military, guess what? If the commander is killed in battle, guess what? Is your team, are the soldiers or the airmen or whatever, are they still going to be able to perform? And stuff. And that's something that when you're talking about leading your team and truly leading your people, that is key. And if you're not doing that in a solid well, if all you're doing is telling them to just do what you say and things of that nature, first of all, you're not getting the job done, because you're not making it available. Now, are there times where your team isn't really sure because the situation is so dramatic? Yeah. And there are some times when you may have to do that and say that. Yeah. But you know what? The thing is that as a leader, you have to be aware of that and work with your team and develop them in such a way that they can be grown up and have become the kind of people that even if you're not there, or even if it's not an expected situation that comes on scene, if it's something that's unexpected or unpredictable and things like that, and this is the question that I offer to leaders out there. Can your team truly perform for success even if you are not there because you had a heart attack or you were in a car crash and you're in the hospital or whatever, kind of thing? Can your team truly perform even if you're not there? And the bottom line is when you're talking about developing your team and being ready for those dramatic and successful results, which make the owners of the company or whatever walk up to you and go, wow, kind of thing. And there have been a couple of times in my career where I've had the senior, directors of the program walk in and tell me that. There were several times where they did that. And but the bottom line is it's not just because I called attention to myself or anything, but I interacted in such a way that the people really became and really were successful, even in a challenging situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you got to do. That doesn't happen just because, as a manager, you're telling them what to do or pointing fingers or whatever. That truly comes from when you're really developing your team and leading them, not directing, not just controlling, but leading them and helping them become even a little bit different and better than what they were, perhaps. And so, if you think about it, and the situation um, um, that counselor said when she mentioned it with the religious concept and all, guess what? There are some things as a leader. There may be some things you have that they don't understand or they don't know. But here's the thing: they may have one or two things that you don't realize.
True.
And that can also happen sometimes. And so when you're talking about being a true leader and you're talking about truly developing trust in your team, in your people, in your organization, the few times where I had senior directors walk up to me and give me those compliments in my
Yeah.
journey, it was that they experienced that trust because of what other people said about me and because of what was experienced in what I was doing. And so that's something to think about. If a manager is simply trying to call attention to themselves and play the game and that kind of thing, they're missing the boat and they're not being real leaders. And so it's just something to think about. I know it's getting close to the time and all, but
No, we're
uh,
good.
this aspect of the when you're talking about building trust in your team, it's not me telling everybody what to do and me you better do it this way, we're going to do it this, this kind of thing. Are there some times you may need to do that? Yeah, but what does your team truly experience
Yeah.
in a day-to-day experience with you? If that's their experience of you, you're probably not getting the job done. But if they get a sense of kind of where the team is becoming and the insights that are coming on scene and aware and what they're truly capable of, even more so than last week or whatever kind of thing. You know what? That's a key aspect of it that a lot of people don't understand. It's not just about telling them what to do and just creating a little thing and saying, here, you do it, you just do it this way. Now, are there some times where that needs to happen? A little bit, yeah. But the bottom line is what happens when the factor is a little bit different than what you expected in the way you created that. And what do they need to do to adapt it and look at it? And so, you think about it, that it's just something to experience. And it's interesting what that a counselor said was in the spiritual nature of it, said, well, God knows science and all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing: when you're talking about moving in your direction for a certain aspect and to achieve something, and unexpected factors come on scene, a lot of people have this mindset that it's, well, just go over here and just leave that alone. Well, know what? Guess what? Sometimes just making a short turn this way gets the job done. Sometimes you may need to go a little bit more. Sometimes you may not. And so, having that awareness and that true situational awareness and how you and your team are growing that and becoming that is so much. And what you can do is If you're doing that in such a way that not only your team understands and experiences something different and positive, but also sometimes your operational company experiences something they didn't expect in a positive way. Guess what? A lot of the positives can come back for you and your team, but you know what? Whenever those came back for me, I mean, I thanked them for it, but I also immediately mentioned something positive about the team. And and so it's just when you're talking about really generating that trust and that synergy and oneness in your team, particularly in a unpredictable, rapidly changing environment where things are not academic and not just predictable. You know, what do you need to do different? This is what I'll leave for the people that are listening. But what do you need to do a little bit different from anything you've done before? What do you need to do different to truly, truly build honest trust in your people? That doesn't happen just because you're asking them to trust you or anything like that. But it's their experience of what's happening and what we're becoming and all of that. That can be huge. And so it's just something to think about when you're talking about leading your team. And like I said, I just simply uh, leave it for anybody that's listening. When you think about you and your team right now, or you know what, your family, perhaps at home, whatever, who knows? What's the one thing that you need different to truly build and inspire that positive growth and becoming in there so that it makes a real sense of trust that they have in you? And so it's it's just something to think about when you're talking about these factors that a lot of times people don't think. It's not just a rote academic thing of here, let's go in here, we'll just do this, kind of thing. But it's understanding those factors, understanding how we may need to tweak it, adapt it, adjust it, um, to truly become. And how are we really doing that? And how much trust do we have in our uh, manager or leader because of the way he's interacting with us? And so when you're talking about leading your team, what do you need to do different? And I just sort of leave that with the listeners that are listening today.
Well, we still have another 5 minutes left, so we're not done
Okay.
talking about leading and leadership. We got a little bit of a late start. So, yeah, there's still more time, Randy. Do you want to kind of, it's kind of brought everything full circle, but did you want to add anything to this? And
Well, that's just the central aspect
yeah.
of what I was going to do. But what I will say is, and this is the one thing that I will lead with leaders that, and in fact, I think I've shared with you one time, Joe, my friend, a long time ago, the most fantastic leader I've ever served with in the military was Richard B. Myers, who became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2001 to 2005. But one of the things that I tell people is that the thing that I learned the most from him about leadership is in what I observed in him. And so when you talk about leading your team, it's not just about you dictating and telling them and pointing fingers or anything like that, but what are they truly learning and experiencing from you that can make a real difference in your team and in your success and all of that. And so it's just something to think about. I'll just kind of leave that with you when you talk about what's the one thing you need to do. You know what? And that's an aspect that I've applied a number of years in my journey and everything. But what is it that makes your people truly trust you? They don't trust you just because of one or two things you said. And a lot of times in the way that you interact with them may be something that kills trust.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you meant to, but that in them it killed the trust. And the bottom line is you don't want that. You don't want that. find ways of really making that positive aspect and that synergy and the true trust and the true development and the becoming, so that you can be radically successful in unpredictable, rapidly changing situations that come up.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's times where your team, because they have a conversation over lunch or something, there might be a time where your team comes up with an answer that you didn't even expect.
Oh.
And you look at it and go, oh, you know what? Yeah, let's try that, kind of thing. And it may be because they're thinking that and having some of those conversations. To be a true leader, you want to be one that can initiate those, but not just to try to dictate to them, but to be a part of them and see kind of what's coming out of them and stuff, and on insights and everything, and do it in such a way that you really have that synergy and you build trust both for your team in you, but also for you and your team. Because guess what? If you have a heart attack or something and you go into the hospital for a week, your team still has to perform.
God.
And so just when you think about that aspect of it and everything, what do you need as a leader? What do you need to do a little differently to truly build that in your team? And I leave that for people to think about.
Got it. Wow. And some team building, some team workshops. Any programs you have coming up that you're doing? You're speaking anywhere?
Well, I'll tell you, the Podcast Business News Network is one, yeah, and stuff. But I know that once that movie comes out, they have. I will say this: that once that movie comes out, they're flying me up to New York City into a studio to talk about it and all. But to give you an idea, I went to a special function yesterday that had a lot of friends in it and everything. And because my birthday was about a week and a half ago, what they did is my friend, who's kind of the lady who's the head of this particular event, stood up and talked about me. She asked me to stand up and she talked about me. And we talked a little bit about the aspect of neuroscience. We talked about the coaching and the leadership and all of that kind of stuff. So a lot of those aspects, and I will tell you this, that over at the airport, when I'm working with pilots, a lot of this comes out almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so it's something where are there opportunities where I can sometimes do a speaking engagement? Yeah, somewhat. But it's something that I bring to it every day of what I live. And so yeah, it's but it's just something that I bring out in everything. Working with pilots, training pilots, in the movie, in the autobiography, in some of these, some of our TBNN shows and everything, but a lot of people have experienced a little bit of a difference in me in the way I do that. So I'm humbled by that, and I'm appreciative.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. How can we contact you and get more information?
Well, as you know, you can go to my website, the homepage of it, and right at the bottom of it, it has my email address on it, and it has my cell phone. And if somebody wants to, by the way, if you do call, I get a lot of scam messages and all that. So if a phone number calls and I don't recognize it, I don't answer it. So make sure you leave a voicemail kind of thing. And as you know, I don't necessarily require things per se. But if the person actually if they just want to have a conversation, we can do that. But if they have something that they want to do, then we'll come up with something for it, and we'll do it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And we'll connect again hopefully next week. Thanks so much, Randy. And glad you had a good birthday, too.
That sounds good.
All right. We'll
Jill,
talk.
It's always a pleasure being with you here, Jill. And I hope you have an incredible weekend and an incredible week.
I appreciate it. You too, sweetheart. And stay cool. I'm trying. I got no AC right now, so that's why the fan's on. I apologize if the hair is blowing.
Oh, okay.
I lost AC today, so I'm like, woo! But I feel good with the fan. Thank you. Have a great day, darling. Bye.
Sounds good. Take care.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.